Good evening. It's good to see everyone out tonight. Excited to be out and able to go to class tonight. If you will be turning with me over to Psalm chapter 71. Psalm chapter 71. I'll be reading from the New King James Version tonight. There's a lot of verses here in Psalm chapter 71. And so I'm not going to read through each and every one of these tonight. I went through and picked out 5 or 6 verses. We're going to hit some of the highlights here tonight, some things that stuck out to me that I thought could be taken and studied maybe furthermore in the week in your family studies or in your personal studies each day. We're not really told specifically who wrote this psalm, who is speaking here. We really don't have to, though. There's a lot of good information here that we can pull out and use in our own lives. Start reading in verse 1. "In you, O Lord, I put my trust. Let me never be put to shame." So the writer here is saying he's putting all of his trust in God. Trust is something that we can have it or not have it. It's very situational. It should not be situational, but I think a lot of times it is situational. Maybe the more you think about it, maybe sometimes the less you trust someone. Maybe you have friends that you think, I trust them, and then you start going to the situation, you're like, maybe I wouldn't trust them too much in that situation there. But I think it's very important, as the writer is saying here, he puts his trust in the Lord. You think about different circumstances in life, as you go through the timeline of life. Are you trusting God about college? Going into college as a freshman or as a senior, you're in high school and you're worried about that, and you're about where you're going and your grades, and you want to be in the right place and do the right things, and so you're worried about that, and so you have to trust God in that situation there. Maybe you've gotten your first job out of college and you're excited about it, and all of a sudden you got the apartment, you've bought a new car, and then you lose your job, and you're back to start from the beginning. You're sitting back on the ground again, and you don't know what you're going to do. It's hard to trust God. It's hard to trust and know what to do in a situation, but we have to trust God. We can't get mad at God or question God. We have to be there to lean on God and to trust Him. Maybe you've been to the doctor and you get bad news at the doctor. That's a hard time that's an easy time to get down on yourself and depressed, get upset and get angry and question things. And we have to continue to trust God there. We have to continue to lean on God and lean on His Word in that time. Maybe it's a loved one we lose. We don't know why we lost that person. Maybe we do. Maybe we don't think it was the right time. Maybe we think we needed more time with that person. We have to trust God in that situation. A lot of Christians, it's easy for them to get mad, and they'll get frustrated, they'll get angry, or they'll just retreat back to themselves, and they won't be there with God and rely on Him and read His Word. And so it's very critical for us to, as the writer here says, "In you, O Lord, I put my trust." He's admitting that and encouraging us to do that always. We'll find further on here down in verse 3, "Be my strong refuge, to which I resort continually. You have given the commandment to save me, for you are my rock and my fortress." Once again, this is tying back into verse 1 with God's protection. God's there to hold us up. He says He resorts continually. That He doesn't resort Easter and Christmas, and when His grandmother gets sick, He's resorting all the time, continually, always resorting there. He says, "You, God, you're my rock and my fortress." You can move some small rocks, but you start trying to move a big rock, and you can't do it. They don't move, and that's what he's comparing God to here is a rock. He doesn't move. He's there to protect him. He has that protection around the writer here, and the writer knows that. It's not a convenience thing. It's not like, something's wrong, let me go to my fortress and take shelter there. Let me lean on my rock when I need to. It's a continuous thing. So I think it's very important each and every day and week and month, and as the years go, that we think of God as our fortress. And we trust in Him to keep us safe and to encourage us and to lead us in the right direction. Coming on down to verse 5, "For you are my hope, O Lord God. You are my trust from my youth. By you I've been upheld from birth. You are He who took me out of my mother's womb. My praise shall be continually of you." This is a long time thing. You think of a youth. You think of a kid who's maybe 2 or 3 years old in their youth. The writer's saying he's trusted him since then, from his youth. We don't know the age of the writer here, but 30 or 40, 50, that's 30 or 40, 50 years that he's been trusting in God. He's been his hope there. It says, by you I've been upheld from birth. That's very young. You think about a small child. You think about the Harrison's young kid. He's there. Hopefully he's raised to trust God from an early age through class and through teaching. He's there to trust God. You are he who took me out of my mother's womb. My praise shall be continually of you. Back in verse 3, we had resort continually. He's praising him continually, all the time. Whether that's in service, whether that's a hard time at work, he's singing praises by himself, or at a Devo, wherever it is, he's singing praises to God. He's giving him the praise, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether he's lost or won. He's saying, you're always who I give my praise to here. Going on down to verse 9, do not cast me off in the time of old age. Do not forsake me when my strength fails. He shows a concern here. He's had God since his youth, and maybe he's getting older now, and he's concerned that, he's unsure. He sees weakness coming up, whether that's physically or mentally, spiritually. He sees weakness, and he's concerned about that. It scares him a little bit. He's afraid of God abandoning him. Like I said, we don't know what kind of strength he's referencing here, but it's a fear he has. And its ability to be faithful. In his old age, he may not be able to worship like he did, or, here in the Old Testament, sacrifice like he once did. And it's a fear that he has there. He's had God from his youth. He's carried him this far. He's leaned on him. And there's just uncertainty there with that. It's going to a new phase of life. It's like going from high school to college, or from being in college to having a family. It's a fear. He's not sure. He's uncertain of what's to come. Move on down to verse 17 and 18. O God, you have taught me from my youth, and to this day I declare your wondrous works. Now also, when I am old and gray-headed, O God, do not forsake me until I declare your strength to this generation, your power to everyone who is to come. I think about, it's talking about the old and gray-headed here. I enjoy talking to people who are older than me. I try to learn from those people, but I think so many times in our youthful society, we think they're old, they need to quit talking. I know better, I've just been to college, I got it all under control here. But that's not necessarily true. And he's saying here, he needs to declare his strength to this generation, your power to everyone who is to come. So he's trying to continue sharing the word. He wants to keep teaching class. He wants to keep interacting with the young people, and he's asking God to let him continue doing that. He enjoys doing that, and he sees the importance of that, and how important that is to him and to the young people. We all know if you're not teaching the children and raising the youth and keeping them in the church, it's kind of a sad road looking forward. And so the writer here in Psalm 71 says, he wants to keep doing that. So there's just a few verses from Psalm 71 that I thought would be important. And maybe tonight you're a young person, and maybe you haven't started trusting God yet. Maybe you haven't had a reason to trust God or needed a reason to trust God. You don't have to have a reason to trust God. You can trust him starting tonight. Maybe you're older in age, and you've leaned on God since your youth, and you don't feel like maybe you haven't been leaning on God from your youth as you did in your youth. Maybe when you were first baptized at 10 or 11 or 12. Maybe you feel like you need the prayers and encouragement of the church. If we can assist you in anything tonight, come as we stand and sing.